Hi all. Today we will try to understand Jupiter in Mundane Astrology. Jupiter is also called as Guru, also Bruhaspati, and Jupiter is the largest planet till date in our solar system. So, the impact of other planets cannot be compared with Jupiter. Jupiter has the largest impact, compared to any other planet in our solar system. So, in mundane astrology or in natal or personal astrology, Jupiter plays a major role, right? So, what Jupiter basically represents? Jupiter represents finance of a country. So, the financial ministry, the central banks, the finances, the revenue department, the wealth, financial gains, whatever finance you see in the whole world, that is related to Jupiter. Jupiter is nothing but expansion. Jupiter is nothing but prosperity. So, whenever you want growth of a country, Jupiter's energy is very much important. If Jupiter's energy is not good, or Jupiter is debilitated, or Jupiter is not in a comfortable position, even though all other planets are in good position, then growth of the country is not possible. Jupiter also represents courts, the judicial system, especially the Supreme Court, High Court, the law tribunals, the legal affairs are all represented using Jupiter's energy. Also, some of the rulers, like, so Sun represents the decision making class, the ruler class in mundane astrology. At the same time, there is a class in the humanity, if you observe, in the human world, if you observe, there's a class that can give advices, that can give suggestions to the rulers, but they are not the decision makers. Decision makers are always kings, but there are some ministers, they can only give suggestions. So that kind of class, represented by Jupiter. So in caste system, if you observe the Indian caste system, Sun is like a Kshatriya, the king, right? He is the major decision maker. But Jupiter is like a Brahmin. He can only give the guidance, he can only give the suggestions, but he is not the decision maker. He is only his ideology or whatever his suggestions are just limited to giving some kind of advices, some kind of decisions, some kind of not decisions, some kind of knowledge to the kings. But the ultimate decision makers are kings only, right? So the ultimate decision maker is Sun only, not the Jupiter. Jupiter is only the knowledge. Jupiter is finance. Jupiter is religion. Jupiter is judicial system. Especially in the judicial system, the courts, the High Court, the Supreme Court, all these courts of law, all are represented by Jupiter. Even the foreign relationships, right? Because foreign relationships are the representation of prosperity and growth. So whatever you see, the prosperity and growth related stuff, you can associate them with Jupiter. Jupiter is also associated with religion. All the priests, right, whether it is a prophet or a Hindu priest, all of them are represented by Jupiter. The churches, the mass, and also the temples, right, they are all represented by Jupiter. The religious heads are represented by Jupiter. Religious practitioners, religious institutions, heads of such religious institutions, all of them are represented by Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is knowledge, Jupiter is finance, Jupiter is dharma, the religion, the judiciary system, and also the educational system can also be represented by Jupiter. The schools, colleges, universities, all the knowledge related stuff, the teachers, right? All of them are represented by Jupiter. The higher learning is also represented by Jupiter. The values and culture of a country, because the values and culture of a country ultimately lead the country to prosperity, right? So you can understand this values and culture of a country can also be represented by Jupiter. So Jupiter energy is going to impact all this stuff, right? Even the philanthropy, because philanthropy ultimately leads to the prosperity of a country. So philanthropy, the recognition, rewards, also the literature, because literature is, literature in the sense the higher knowledge, the in-depth knowledge of some, some knowledge, some concepts are also related to, Jupiter. So whenever Jupiter is debilitated, the first thing that is going to be impacted is finance of a country, right? If Jupiter is debilitated, then everyone checks what about the finance of that country. If finance of that country is not good, then there is no prosperity, there is no growth, then there is no foreign relationships, there is no money for the government to invest in education or invest in judicial systems or whatever, right? Especially the judicial system represented by Jupiter is, related to the courts, right? The dharma, right? But if you observe the military generals, the police, all of them are represented by Mars. Mars energy is going to impact, the military and weapons, warfare, all of them are represented by Mars. But whereas this kind of knowledge related stuff, right? The knowledge related stuff, the religion stuff, also the judicial stuff, especially the courts, right? And also the knowledge giving people, right? Knowledge giving people are also associated with Jupiter, but Jupiter is mainly the primary importance of Jupiter is finance, religion, education, the knowledge giving stuff, right? That is the main thing. And Jupiter mainly represents expansion, the prosperity, the growth. So if Jupiter is not good, then nothing, even though everything is good, there is no prosperity if Jupiter is not good, if Jupiter is not comfortable, if Jupiter is debilitated, then definitely you can say there is no prosperity of the country, right? So if you observe in this December 2020, you can observe Jupiter is going to conjunct with Saturn in Capricorn, and Jupiter is going to be debilitated in Capricorn, right? So debilitation of Jupiter is actually represents the global financial crisis, right? And whenever Saturn and Jupiter conjunct, people generally observe, there is a financial crisis, but this time, of course, due to the pandemic, everyone can expect there is a global financial crisis ahead, and there would be no prosperity in so many matters, because there is a financial crisis all over the globe. So definitely Jupiter is very important in mundane astrology. Not only in mundane astrology, in any kind of astrology, Jupiter is very much important, because Jupiter is the largest, the biggest planet, and the energy emanated from Jupiter is going to impact a lot. So this is about Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is finance, education, religion, also the judicial courts, the prosperity, the expansion, the foreign relationships, right? The values, culture, and also in-depth knowledge of some concept, right? Philanthropy. Population is also can be represented by Jupiter, because growth and expansion. Population represents growth and expansion. Even recognition, rewards, all of them are representation of prosperity. So even Jupiter's energy is going to impact the recognition, rewards, and population, values, and culture, right? Thank you.